Welcome to today's greenhouse chat. It is a chilly day outside, so we got some hot coffee and we're ready to get comfy and cozy with the doors closed for today's chat. Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B and we are in southeastern North Carolina. Welcome to our second greenhouse chat of 2026. So the first one was all about gardening on a budget because woohoo, we need to save money this year with how expensive everything is, not just groceries, everything. This time it's how to make our gardens look expensive, but not breaking the bank while we're doing that. The idea is to achieve a more high-end, polished look, cleaner, less chaotic. We're going to talk a little bit about design principles to make this happen. But again, what can we do to give our gardens this high-end, expensive luxury look without breaking the bank? By the way, I have 9 ways to share with you, but the last 2 are my 2 favorites. So, of course, I'm going to save the best for last. The first way we can achieve this is by having fewer plants that are repeated intentionally. Now, don't get me wrong. I am one of the first people to say fewer plants. I love having all my plants, but we are looking for a cohesive design look, something that looks planned, something that looks intentional. So you will often see people plant things repetitively or in drifts, so like in a large grouping of them, and that is the reason. We want our eye to be drawn to the length of these plants, say 10 of them planted in a row. Our eye is going to follow along that line naturally instead of I'll take one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. Designers commonly use limited plant palettes. So you may find 10 different kinds of plants, 5 different kinds of plants. That doesn't mean you can't have what you want. Just be intentional about where you put what you have. Repeating the same plant multiple times reads as designed and not random. And that is really what we're after with number 1. Number 2. A large container is more impactful than many or multiple small containers. Again, let's think about being intentional. A larger container is going to anchor a space nicely, and that is going to feel intentional. Again, it's going to make the space feel like it's designed. Now, let's say you have the desire to use multiple containers instead. That's just what you're after. How about we think about making them cohesive, maybe in color, maybe in material. Don't have one stone, one plastic, one red, one blue, for example, but let's choose a color palette that feels great. And let's make these things be variations or shades of that color if you want variety. And when you group these containers together, it's going to make everything feel less scattered, less all over the place. And again, much more intentional. By the way, if we do invest in one large container, you can just change your plants out seasonally and you don't have to change the pot. So the look will be different for each season that comes along, but you don't have to worry about reinvesting that money again for another pot. So it's kind of a one and done situation. Number 3, strong edges on your flower beds instantly raise the price tag. This is just by look, of course. Clean edging is one of the fastest luxury upgrades. Defined edges can increase the perceived landscape quality immediately. It looks like your landscape is manicured. It is being taken care of. You don't have grass growing into your flower beds. You don't have weeds showing up in front of your flower beds, but instead your lines are clean. Now, I don't care how you edge. Personally, I just like a clean, straight line. It's something I talk about all the time. I do it manually with an edging tool, and I just keep going around the edges of my flower beds, and I do it multiple times in a year because I really don't want that extra. I have centipede grass here, and it really likes to shoot its legs out and grow into your flower beds. So I like that clean, fresh line. Now, my neighbor has recently redone the edging on their flower beds, and they did like a stacked block stone. It looks amazing. It looks so coastal. They filled the flower bed then with white rock. So we have a beautiful like tan stacked block, then white rock with palm trees in it. Oh my gosh. The vibe is so coastal. It's so luxury, and it just looks beautiful. You can also do things like they have metal edging that you can put right into the ground. It will take shape the way that you want to shape it, and it holds your mulch in place if that would be a concern of yours. I see lots of other people do things with stacked stone or even big boulders along the edges. As long as you are clearly defining the lines of your flower beds, I'm on board with that. And also, as long as someone can get the weed whacker or weed eater to get the grass that's going to grow up in between those spaces, just absolutely don't let that happen, or that defeats the whole purpose of having a straight, clean edge. Let's talk about foliage over flowers giving an expensive vibe. I will be the first to admit that I didn't realize how absolutely awesome foliage plants could be before. I was very wrong, because as it turned out, I fell in love with some gorgeous foliage plants within the last 2 years. We're talking about things like caladiums, things like coleus, things like ornamental grasses. If you think about foliage plants that give your space structure long term instead of flowers that bloom for 2 weeks out of the year, like some lilies, like my stargazer lilies that I love, they're one of my favorite flowers. They don't last that long. But if you think about having a different kind of plant in your garden that does last, foliage plants could be exactly what you need. You can choose things like boxwoods or other structural evergreens. You can choose things like ferns, heuchera, hostas. Foliage plants like this look designed even when they're not in bloom. So it gives you that structure kind of just all the time, which is really fabulous. And if you pick things like caladiums repetitively or coleus repetitively or in a beautiful grouping, then that is also going to look designed. It's going to look intentional. It is a way, I was going to say, can give you the color that you thought you would be missing from not having the flower. These foliage plants don't have to just be green, in other words. They can provide you with instant color and instant drama in the garden. And the other thing is they're giving you different textures. A great garden is filled with different textures. So it's not just about color, it's about the texture. So you can have so many different foliage plants. In my case, I even have palms. Like I have a pygmy date palm, which is a beautiful, like feathery kind of palm. I absolutely adore it. It's green, but it gives me gorgeous texture against other like tropical plants I'll pair with it for the whole summer or warm season, like my hibiscus, for example. So foliage plants really can give you a more consistent visual look because they're there for a much longer term than flowers that go in and out of bloom. Number 5, stick to a tight color palette. Unless you are doing some sort of like a cottage garden design where kind of more anything goes and your space is going to be filled up with many flowers, many plants, all sorts of different things, and they just kind of have a more random appeal. In that sense, your cottage garden is random, is intentionally random. But what we're talking about right now is having an intentional look, being limited with the colors that we're choosing, so we don't have red and purple and pink and yellow and everything all mixed together necessarily. Now, in some cases, I understand if done very well, this can still be pulled off. But replicating the colors we're using, repeating the types of plants we're using, all give us a more cohesive look. That's all we're trying to go for here. So if we're looking to neaten up, tighten up those edges, tighten up what's inside the flower beds, this could be a great way to give our flower beds a little more of a designed look. Now look, we're not trying to take all the fun out of gardening, not at all. And here is one of the things you can actually play with. This next step is adding depth and dimension to your garden. So number 6 is about the depth, dimension, heights, layering. We can add multiple plants into our garden space, and we can have great fun with the placement of these different plants and see how we can make them go. So this is where we are going to have to pay attention to the plant tags, where it tells us how tall is our plant going to get to make sure that we don't block it by something else, etc. But when we have that gorgeous layering inside of a garden, oh man, that really shows off as amazing. So if you have people walking down the street, or you have invited guests over and you're giving them a tour around the yard, when they see either spaces that you left intentionally or spaces you filled intentionally in this way, either way comes across as, again, cohesive and designed. And what's the other big word here? Intentional. And by the way, in the last video where we talked about budget gardening, we talked about dividing up our perennials and kind of share the love around the yard. This kind of goes into what we're talking about here too with repeating plants. If you have a plant, and a hosta is the fabulous example, that you can divide up, let's say into 4 because your hosta has gotten so large, you now have 4 hostas to line a space. And if you have more than one hosta that you're dividing up, you can now have 8 or 12 hostas lining a space. A pathway, for example, a clean edge of a flower bed, for example. So we can definitely use our own plants to repeat the plants that we want in our landscape. Number 7 is a goodie. It is about mulching uniformly. Oh, now this is a pet peeve of mine. If I see somebody's yard that is not mulched uniformly, maybe they thought they wanted red mulch, but then they changed to brown, or a different areas black. Maybe some areas have no mulch at all, and you can see like almost the roots of the trees kind of like, where's my covering? I like having mulch in my yard. And hey, some people use rock, some people use pine straw. Whatever it is as your top dressing, I'm okay with. It is like painting over your sheetrock wall where you had the tape and the spackle, but now the paint is the finished coat that covers kind of over all of that mess. So that's why I like the top coat. Mulch uniformly and not randomly. That is all I ask of you. Now, you can go ahead and utilize like these spring sales when mulch goes on sale by the bag. It becomes pretty inexpensive to do that, and you can then take your time and spread the bags from place to place to place around your yard. Or you can go to somebody that actually like chops up their own mulch and can give you a whole truckload delivery. Doesn't matter to me how you do it, but mulching your yard uniformly is going to give you another clean designer look. Number 8, and one of my favorite tips, add one amazing statement piece. Now the statement piece is up to you. What do you want to feature? Would it be an amazing piece of statuary, or a bird bath, or a specimen of some sort like a gorgeous Japanese maple? I have this beautiful weeping pussy willow tree that is a focal point of my garden. That makes the statement for me in there. It could be an obelisk or a trellis. I very strongly believe that these statement pieces or even statement features can help someone's garden become recognizable as theirs. For example, if you're watching YouTube gardeners, and I watch a whole bunch, you may take 1 or 2 pieces out of this person's garden that they feature all the time. And when you look at it, you know exactly whose garden you're looking at. So again, statuary, sculpture, I feel that my statement piece in my garden is probably my blue boardwalk, because I have this blue pathway that goes down the center of my secret garden, and I designed it this way intentionally, and I chose blue because it is very me, and gives very coastal vibes, and that's something that I loved. And I think that when people think of a blue boardwalk inside of a garden, they probably would associate it with Nicole's garden. So thinking of one focal point, one main piece can be amazing. It can be a great conversation starter for when friends come over and they're seeing your yard. It could be something people admire. I had a big birthday this past summer, and I told my husband, don't go buy me a whole bunch of things, like a whole bunch of little things. I want one thing for my garden, one statement piece for my garden. We're still on the hunt for it because it's not that I'm overly picky, but I want something unique. I want something that's going to tell a story, probably has a little bit of history behind it. So I'm thinking more like I might find it at an antique place or even a junkyard of some sort, or something we're going to actually build together. And it's fine if it's 6 months after my birthday by the time it gets into my garden. I don't care about that. What I want to know is every time I look at that piece, I'm going to say, my husband got that for me for my big birthday. Number 9, this is another favorite of mine, lighting. Adding lighting, even a little bit, changes everything. I did not know how much I believed in that until I added lighting into my own garden space. You have multiple options for lighting. It could be solar lighting. You can have it actually wired, hardwired into your property, however you need to make it work. You can do string lights. You can have up lighting. Oh my goodness. No matter what style of lighting you choose, the look is absolutely intense and amazing. At night, oh, it gives that a soft romantic look to the garden. That is something that I love. It gives you ambiance. It sets a scene. It makes your garden visible at night, which is luxury. I myself have a combination of solar lights and string lights. I don't regret either one of those purchases. The string lights, in fact, I've liked so much. I put them around my entire backyard. I started only in one spot. It was over my rock garden, originally only my rock garden. But since I did that and I really loved the way that looked, I went ahead and kept buying more string lights. I'll link below the string lights I have. I personally really do enjoy them. Now I have them down my secret garden. I have other lights in my shade garden. I just absolutely adore the way that they look. And I have some people that are in my neighborhood too that are using uplighting in an amazing way. Like I was talking about the palm tree earlier in a neighbor's yard. Imagine uplighting on a palm tree. Oh my goodness, that evening look with the way the delicate branches and the foliage falls. I just love it. And you can start small. One of my favorite quotes, I say this all the time, you might know it by me, little by little, a little becomes a lot. You do not need to jump all in and spend $500 on landscape lighting if that's not in your budget for this year. Start small. Look for solar lights that come in packages of like 10 that could be the best value for the money. Start with that. Or one strand of party lights or something first instead of going out and buying 4 or 6 depending on how big your space is. Start small. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. It does all come together. So you guys, I don't have this luxury yard where it's like acres and acres of property and a budget that has no end. So I fill it up with all these amazing things all the time. No, I work little by little and I make my garden look luxurious because I take all the steps that I feel are necessary to keep my budget intact, but yet come out with a finished, intentional look. Like I said, I edge my property all the time because I think that gives a clean look. I divide up my perennials and put them in places in my yard because I want that repetitive flower look, that sort of thing. So we can make these design ideas possible by maybe putting in a little work or realizing you have to have a little bit of patience to get our garden to the place we want it to be. I hope you enjoyed this greenhouse chat. Please comment below on other greenhouse chat topics that you would like to discuss, things that you want to know about. Maybe it's something I do, maybe it's something that my community does that you want me to reach out and ask and we get some fresh ideas flowing. Let's share as many ideas as possible because that's what this is all about. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely follow me on social media because I put so many posts up there that are just beautiful tributes to the garden, and it's much more real time than I do here on YouTube. And until next time, you guys, happy planting.